So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to this Lunch and Learn with Cormendi Health. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. John Stracks, a physician in Chicago who focuses on holistic health. I work with a lot of clients for whom conventional medicine hasn't worked well, particularly in the areas of thyroid and menopausal health. I provide primary care for people who are interested in healthcare that involves more than just taking medication. I'm regularly asked by clients how they can achieve their health goals. And so Rhonda Edelstein is with me today to talk a little bit about that. Rhonda's a health coach here in the Chicagoland area, works with some of our clients. She is a former international fashion model who, Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong, began traveling the world at age 15, working with many well-known fashion and beauty brands. And despite your success in that world, all the travel and maintaining an unattainable image took a toll for you on your health, hormones, diet. And, and so that struggle led to a quest for balance. And that's how you became a holistic health and wellness coach. And you're certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and studied spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica in California. And so you've joined us in the last year to provide support for people looking for personal coaching with lifestyle goals such as healthy eating, regular exercise, and weight loss. I'm thrilled that you are here with us in general. I'm thrilled that you are here with us today. We have so many clients here at Cormendi who are on their own journeys towards balance and overall health, similar to what happened to you. And so if you don't mind starting, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about how you went from being a fashion model to being a health coach, which is quite a shift. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that came about?
Yes, it was a big transition and happy to share more. Just thank you for having me, Dr. Strax, and it's great to see people joining us today. So I found myself at kind of the height of my modeling career. I was on a plane multiple times a week. I was, uh, having to adhere to these rigid standards of keeping a certain body size that was very unrealistic. It took a lot of rigorous exercise and uh, mental, strength to do those things. And I was always following different diets. And it just took a lot out of me, and it really took a toll on my body. And what happened for me first was, I found myself living in New York City, really feeling like I was in the rat race there, but it didn't make sense for me to leave modeling at that point. I'd worked so hard to get to that point, but I knew that I wanted something different for my life. I really wanted to have children. I wanted to hopefully get married, have a relationship. And I knew the lifestyle that I was living was not going to be supportive of that. So it really kind of just started with me dreaming up and envisioning like how I would like my life to be different. And I would spend my mornings when I would go for a walk and exercise. I'd really just think about and what I wanted to create in my life and how I would like it to look different. And I got really creative with that. I'm like, wow, if I'm gonna think about that, I dream about moving to somewhere warm near the ocean, and I'd see me with my family and children and all the things that I wanted in my life. And it wasn't too long later that I was on a job. And I was traveling through Chicago and I met my now husband there. And lo and behold, he lived in Los Angeles. And it just opened my mind to like that my life could look differently. So it was really just like one little decision at a time that led me to making changes. So it wasn't just like, one big decision to just like change everything at once, but that led me to eventually
You didn't
moving.
grow up in the warmth by the ocean, correct?
I didn't. I grew up in Canada, on a farm, and really my life that I was leading couldn't have looked more different than how I had grown up as well. So, I really didn't grow up prepared for the life that I had created, as a model. And there was a lot of great things that happened as a result of that. I traveled the world. I met incredible people and friends. And like I said, it was a very demanding, way of living.
Yeah. So this lunch and learn came about because you and I were chatting, and you reminded me that the second Friday of January is known as Quitter's Day. So
Yes.
research says that the average New Year's resolution has ended by the second Friday of the month. And we start talking about what can we do to support people in the resolutions that they make. And so when you work with people and help coach them, say it's the beginning of January and they decide that they want to lose 10 pounds or they want to eat more healthy or they want to start regular exercise. Um, what do you do to work with them to help them start to make the kinds of changes that they want to make?
Yes. How we begin really makes a difference. Uh, I really like for people to take a very clear inventory of their life, their unique life circumstances and obligations. So you can really get clear about small changes that you can make. I love if people can have like achievable wins early on so that they can build on that, and it also builds confidence in your ability to change. And if you're not sure what to change, or when I'm working with somebody, I really love using the tool of tracking. If you can track for ideally like 2 weeks, you can pick one thing that could be what you're eating and just track it without judgment, like honestly track. And you start to see patterns and you start to get insight in what you're doing. The other thing you can do is you can track really everything you're doing, and it's really insightful. So you would track what you're eating, what exercise you're doing, the hours you put in at work, and what you're doing with your free time. And it's really incredible. It starts to really like you start to see sometimes like you get insight to why you're doing the things you're doing. Even by the second week, sometimes it starts to influence what you're doing, and you can, have some leverage to make changes. But it also gives you ideas of like, oh, here's an opportunity. Here's where I have a window of time. Or, this is what I want to work on. I'm not drinking enough water. I'm going to start there and really nail that down, um, and have success and keep building.
And so, what kind of small goals would you start people at? Like, say I came to you and said, Rhonda, like I gained 20 pounds during pandemic and I haven't been able to lose it. And I'm ready to let that go. What kind of small goals do you think you would start me on if I told you, like, I work a lot of hours, I still have children at home, I
Yeah.
haven't exercised a ton over the past couple of years. How would you get me started out?
Yeah. Well, we would need to take that information from tracking of really seeing where you're at and look for the opportunities in your day where you can add in. So let's say I recently had a client, very busy work life, a lot of obligations at home, and they realized, once they were taking a look at their day, that they took a pretty good break at lunchtime. And they also got talking with their coworkers and realized that they wanted to get more exercise and get moving too. So, they would either take a break at lunch and go for a walk, or even they would go to a nearby gym, or they even did some of their meetings as walking meetings just to get those extra steps in. And it was included in their day rather having to find more or extra time.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of food, and food behaviors, it's really helpful to see like what's going on and what the real struggle is. Are you unsure about what you should be eating? Is it portion control? Are you struggling with, emotional eating somewhat at the end of the day? It's kind of helpful to kind of get clear about what is going on for you and then taking steps to address that.
And so the woman that you said that you were working with, who's doing the exercising at lunchtime with her team, did you guys have a specific goal that she was working on to get started, or was the goal the tracking just to get a sense of where
I
she?
mean, the goal, like her personal goal was to lose weight, get moving more, and also improve food choices. And just to understand a little bit more, like what would be the best choices for her to have energy throughout the day, and feel more stable throughout the day. But by taking a look at what she was doing in her day, we were able to see, like, okay, here's where we can add in the exercise. We also worked on a morning routine that was supportive of getting like a really great, nourishing, balancing meal to start her day off.
Mhm.
She felt more stable throughout the day.
Nice. And so like we said, the second Friday in January is Quitters Day. And so part of what you do, obviously, is people come and they're all interested and then get started. And sometimes it goes quickly and sometimes it doesn't. How do you help people stay motivated, especially if like things don't automatically start rolling when they start working?
Yes. So I love to use a tool, even how I had talked about how my life had started to change, of having people get really clear about what the changes will bring in their life. Like, what will be the result?
Mhm.
How will they benefit? And to really visualize that and feel the emotion of, you know, let's say you want to lose weight, but like, what will be the benefit of that? Will you be able to move your body better? Can you, play with your kids in a different way? Are you looking forward to, going shopping and buying clothes that feel really good to you?
Mhm.
To really spend time like anchoring into that each day. I love starting the morning off like that, but you can revisit it at any time.
Mhm.
The other thing, though, I think that's like significant to point out is that motivation fluctuates for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
And it's really, we can make decisions ahead of time of the things that we want to do. And I think it's important to make decisions for our future self
Mhm.
before we get to the tired, hungry, overwhelmed
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
So I really like to have people each evening think about their day ahead. How
Mhm.
could I set my future self up for tomorrow
Mhm.
to make good choices and to not have to make so many choices? We can sometimes get like decision fatigue. And if we've just made the choice that I'm going to get up and work out tomorrow.
Mhm.
Maybe I set out my workout clothes and I have my water ready and I know what video that all I have to do is press play
Mhm.
and get myself there.
Mhm.
Or I, for example, in my own life, there's evenings where I have a full day of working and then I have, you know, uh, activities to get my kids to.
Mhm.
I know on those days I'm not going to be in my kitchen cooking. So I have to think ahead. Am I going to prepare something or I'm going to have something on hand that's so easy just to put together? Or maybe I know where I can get takeout along my path with them that meets the needs of all of us. But those are things that I have looked at ahead of time.
Hmm. Do you work with people to try to help understand what their future self is going to do in a time of temptation? And so, like, say I
Yeah.
bargain with my future self that there's not going to be any dessert at the end of the day. And then I finish dinner and everybody else in the family is eating dessert and there's a cookie just sitting right there. Like, how do people help prepare their future selves for high temptation moments?
Yes. Well, one thing that I, think really helps that we touched on is just getting clear about those results that you want to experience, because it's easy in the moment to really, our brain will tell us, will talk us into things and out of things all the time.
Mhm,
Like, oh, just wait and start tomorrow,
mhm,
or,
mhm,
start over at the end of vacation or next week.
mhm,
And it's really helpful to know that, be alert that like those things are going to happen,
mhm,
and to have some tools in place. Sometimes it can be that there's an alternative
mhm,
that we can have.
mhm,
Um, I'm not always opposed to actually going ahead and enjoying something with the family,
mhm,
but then it's like managing your mind afterward, that
mhm,
you don't have to hang on to guilt, and
mhm,
that it doesn't mean that you blew it and
mhm,
that you have to start anything, they have to start all over. It's just allowing life to unfold.
mhm. And so as you're working with people, do you ever find that like they start working on something and it's going well, and then something comes up, they get sick, a child gets sick, they go on vacation, and things kind of revert back to where they started? How do you help them get back on track? Or how do people get back on track if they're moving in one direction and then something happens and they shift?
Yeah. So I like to say, like, life is improv. Like, things are going to happen. We really just have to know how to expect that. And a lot of it is ahead of time. It's how are you going to be with yourself when, that inner dialogue, how are you going to be with yourself when things don't go as planned? The harder we are on ourselves when we fall back, I see and find, the more likely you are to quit or to not pick it up again, the habit that you would like. So, I like to call it, like, I use this term for myself and when I'm talking to clients, of like, recover faster. As soon as you've seen that you've, slipped up or you've fallen off the wayside, it's like, come back to your goal quicker. Because
Mhm,
our mind will go to those places of like, oh, like, again, just wait till Monday, or, wait till the beginning of the month, wait for those perfect moments.
mhm,
But life is unfolding right here,
mhm,
right now. And the sooner you can come back, and it's the compound effect of doing the small things over time that really create results for people.
mhm. What kind of small, when you say that small things over time, like what kinds of things come into your mind as those small things? Is it like each individual decision, or like you said, taking a 10-minute walk when maybe you would take a 0-minute walk previously? Like what kind of small things come to mind
Yes.
as you?
Yeah, it can really be those small decisions. I think a lot of people have set the bar so high for exercise of what they expect exercise should be. If you can lower that and just recognize any movement is good movement, and can be counted toward exercise. So yes, it's like, if you have the opportunity, a 10 or 15-minute walk is going to give your body benefits. It's not just about counting the calories. It's those small choices. It is those times you're willing to say, you know what? I'm working really hard. I'm not going to have the cookie tonight. This is not my last opportunity to have a cookie.
Mhm,
It wasn't in my plan. I'm not sure that I'm really hungry for it. I know it's tempting. And some of that is letting go of old diet mentality, that thinking like this is your last opportunity for something. So it's those little decisions that over time can add up.
I have a patient whose goal is one push-up a day.
Mm,
Then once he starts doing push-up, right? So he starts doing one push-up, then he oftentimes will do more than one push-up. But one push-up a day means that like if he hasn't gotten his push-ups and he's out for dinner, he can drop down, do one push-up really quickly in the parking lot
love that.
or outside the bathroom. So it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to get done. And then more often than not, he finds himself in a place where he can actually do the exercise and it's a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. I talk to clients about coming back for lunch and like doing 20 or, one push-up would work too, but doing 20 or 30 squats just at their desk.
Mhm.
There's benefits of that. It's, strength. It is developing strength. And it's also helping your body utilize the glucose of like the meal that you just ate. It's like putting it to use.
Yeah. Are there other qualities that you see your clients adopt that help them stick to their goals over time? Other aspects of your work with them or what they are able to do that helps them continue to move forward?
Yeah. I really find that people's ability to change escalates when they can develop like a positive self-talk, that like inner dialogue, and then also change the language about how they are talking about themselves. But it's like you're the person you spend the most time with day in and day out. There's a running dialogue up here. So, like I said earlier, it's like we can talk ourselves in or out of things all the time. And, a lot of our thoughts are just habits, an accumulation of things that have happened to us in the past. And they're not permanent. It takes, really when it comes to change, like what we're all up against is our thinking and our limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
So to, continually change that. I love affirmations, but I really encourage people to pick affirmations that are believable. Like
Mhm.
say things to yourself, like, I can change. I'm learning new things. I'm in the process of, creating a healthier lifestyle.
Mhm.
I'm curious about what it's like to, be healthier. Like say things that are believable.
Did you personally ever have to learn to be kinder to your own self?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I think that was a thing that really escalated like change for me as well. And it was more about learning self-compassion
Mhm.
because I had, learned how to be quite harsh with myself when I was trying to live up to the standards of the modeling industry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I learned to have a lot of self-judgment
Mhm.
about how I looked and what I was doing and keeping up with other people.
Mhm.
So I really, like, for me, I kind of called it mothering myself. And for some people that resonates and some people it doesn't, but it really is just developing a kinder way of being with yourself when you're going through things, when you're changing, when you're, um, yeah, facing life day to day.
Yeah, I think self-compassion for me personally was a new concept as an adult. Like I'd never heard of that term when I was a kid. And so when I realized the kinds of things that I would say to myself and did some work around that, eventually I'd get to the point where I'd start to say something. I'd be like, no, 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 like we don't talk like that around here anymore. Same way that I would with one of my kids. Like, you know what? That's not appropriate. Like if you're not going to say something nice,
Yeah.
don't say.
I sometimes even use that. It's like, would you tell that to a child? Would you say that to someone, would you tell them to do that? Would you be harsh with them in that way? And, that can kind of interrupt that pattern a little bit because it's like we all need encouragement.
Mhm.
We all do. But if we can self-generate a lot of it, it can make a real difference.
Yeah. Is that part of what you help people with when you coach them is sort of providing some of that positive voice and then teaching them how to have that on their own?
Yes. Yes, it's like learning to be a witness for yourself and to catch yourself in, the negative self-talk.
Mhm.
And then really be conscious of choosing like how do you want to be with yourself? How would you treat somebody that you loved or, felt wanted to be kind to? And it's a process. It's something that, you have to repeatedly learn, but it also builds over time. Like it has, like I said, a compounding effect.
Mhm.
And then it becomes more second nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of us, we weren't often, I mean, I wasn't taught that in school.
No,
A
no,
lot.
a lot of us weren't taught that anywhere. And so it's this new
Yeah.
skill as an adult. Um, we're gonna take a few questions. I'm gonna have people
Sure.
post their questions in the chat. And so I just opened up the chat box. So anybody who has questions for Rhonda or for me, feel free to type them there in the chat. That way you can get them to us. As people are thinking about their questions or whether they have them, Rhonda, like what does it look like if you are working with somebody? Like how do you what's the structure? How do they, what could they expect if they were working with you on some of these health goals?
Yeah. Well, once someone makes the decision that they would really like to receive support, I have them fill out an initial intake form where I just really gather a lot of information. My goal when working with somebody is really to get to know who they are, what it's like to be them. And then through conversation, we meet, we go over that, and I get a real idea of like what unique challenges they might be facing, can get an idea too of like what is their inner dialogue like, what challenges do they face there. And then we start meeting weekly and make agreements of the small changes that you can start making and building on.
Mhm,
And it's specific to the goals that each person has. Sometimes that's weight loss, sometimes it's just general health, just creating new habits.
mhm. And what kind of results have you seen with your clients over time? Like what does it look like if somebody's working with you and it's going well?
Yeah, I've helped plenty of people with weight loss over time. Um, I'm I'm always in favor of the slow and steady wins the race. I really believe it's like you have to create the new habits that are going to support uh, your life going forward. A lot of the, I don't know, a lot of diets or, cookie cutter plans, it's like it doesn't allow for life to happen once you finish. You're kind of either on the plan or off the plan. So my goal is longevity for people of really creating habit change. And then to like, when you bump up against resistance, that's what I'm there for, to really talk through and to see like, okay, what thoughts are getting in the way, what behaviors, what old habits.
Mhm. Um, Good. There's one question came in through the chat, and if people don't know where the chat box is and you want to ask a question, down at the bottom, there's a couple of buttons
Yeah.
down there, and you can hit chat and then type us anything you want. What about with mental health goals, shifting emotions, shifting thoughts? Is that something that you'll work with people on?
Yeah, certainly if that's a goal that they have for themselves. Um, there are some things that are more fit for a therapist,
Mhm.
but if it's general, just overall, like I would like to improve my mood throughout the day. All of this applies. Uh, like I was sharing before, we're a lot of times our brain, like it just keeps repeating the things that it knows, and we're accumulation of things that are said to us, experiences that we've had over time. And it just keeps serving that back up. And, a lot of times we just don't even realize the unconscious thoughts that we're having or thinking that are creating our feelings and
Mhm.
then affecting our actions. So sometimes it is just about, recognizing that and choosing something new. I
I
also I also had um I had a coach at one point work on this with me. They
Mhm.
said to me like, "Okay, I was recognizing." She was saying like, "You kind of like think about Winnie the Pooh. Like you keep waking up with an Eeyore brain."
Mhm. Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
was like, "Gosh, like I do. It's just a habit. Like I'm waking up worrying about things, about the future. Um just, feeling kind of low. And I realized I was able to, she's like, Tigger, think about Tigger. Tigger has a different way of approaching life,
Mhm.
and some of that can really be choice.
And I think that, we talk about mental health too. I think that's true, right? We get these habits that we get into, and when you're talking about the tracking, sometimes it's helpful to track those. And so one of my
Yeah,
patients once told me like she started keeping track of the things that she was saying to herself in her mind. And she said, wow, I was saying things to myself that I wouldn't say to my enemies, much less
absolutely.
my friends. But until we start to pay attention, we don't even necessarily know that. And she ended up also like for, very number of years down the road, ended up being a coach for people in the music area. And I think sort of starting to pay attention in that way is what really helped her. I think there are other ways that your work can help benefit mental health. And so for instance, the research on the connection between exercise and mental health is so many studies showing that regular exercise improves our mood, reduces our
Yes.
anxiety. And then I have a patient who was the daughter of two psychiatrists and really struggled with depression and some anxiety. And she's getting a lot, as you'd expect, a lot of pressure to take psychiatric medication, which she didn't want to do. And so we worked on her diet and had her pull out sugar and gluten and dairy and a few other foods too, and she did quite well. And then she told me afterwards, said she wanted to see how she did with those foods. And so she pulled back dairy into her diet
Mm.
and did fine. She said that she then pulled gluten back into her diet and got super tired. Um, and then pulled sugar back in. And she said, and I became a raging lunatic. And so we don't oftentimes recognize what the effect of diet is on our mental health. But I think oftentimes when we start to make changes, we can see those changes in our emotions happen without necessarily specifically focusing on that.
Yes, for sure. I've also worked with people. It's like food can either be regulating or dysregulating to the nervous system based on what we're eating and when we're eating.
Hmm.
Sure. So it's, learning what foods are stabilizing for the blood sugar and be really helpful. And then also the ones that we're having sensitivities to, like it sounds like your patient did.
Yeah. So no more questions in the chat. So I'll give one more opportunity. Anybody has an extra question, they can type it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up. Rhonda, what was your personal New Year's resolution this year?
I wanted to get back to meditation.
Mhm.
I hadn't been meditating regularly. And the way I did it was by tracking what I was doing with my time because I wasn't finding the time.
Mhm.
And I suddenly saw this little window where I'm often in car line,
Mhm. Mhm.
pick up my kids, and I'm looking at my phone or, making a phone call, but I'm like, gosh, that's like totally quiet, interrupted time in my car. So I've started using that for meditating.
Mhm.
And I also recognize that I really love a little quiet time in the morning, and I don't mind getting up 20 minutes earlier to listen to a meditation.
Mhm.
So yes, that's what it was for me, but I found the time by seeing what I was actually doing.
Yes, my personal resolution was more exercise. And
Oh,
so I go in and out and decided I was going to exercise regularly, but it's cold here in Chicago.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
it turns out, so we live in Evanston, just north of Chicago, one suburb over, Skokie. The track is available to non-Skokie residents for $20 per year.
Oh, wow.
So I gave him the $20 bill and I can go over there and I can walk around the track each morning and just make sure I get my steps in and do it regularly. And so I've been keeping it up 5 or 6 days a week and
Great.
feel a lot better because of it. So so far I managed to get past Quitters Friday and
That's great. Yeah, a lot of times it is just getting creative with ways of fitting it in or in a, I like to propose to my brain, like, how could I do this? How could I find a way? If I really wanted to, what would I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And put my brain to work in that direction.
Mhm. Yeah, and our brain will start to work on it behind the scenes, and then things
Yes.
pop up even if we're sort of not directly thinking about it. So anyway, we will end there for today. Thank you so much for being
Aaron.
here and sharing your expertise and your wisdom. And I know that everybody on the call has appreciated your experience and what you've shared. Thank you to everybody who joined us today or watching after the fact on YouTube. If you're interested in working with me or with Rhonda on any aspect of healthcare or lifestyle, go ahead and contact us through our website, cormendyhealth.com. If you're already a patient, send us a message through Passport. We'll get back to you with all the details that you need. And we're going to make these lunch and learns another New Year's resolution of ours at Cormendi. We're going to make these regular happenings over the course of the year. So watch our newsletter for the next date upcoming up in the next several weeks or month. And if you're not on our newsletter, you can sign up through our website, cormendyhealth.com, and you'll be added to the list. So good to see everybody. Rhonda, thanks so much. And hope everybody has a good rest of their day.
Thank you.